It's a good matchup on paper. It's a matchup that, the Eagles should dominate, but then you have the Carson Wentz effect. So I feel like, at some point he's going to unload. He's just going to have a great game on the Eagles. Now, you would hope that he gets it out of the system this week and it doesn't happen when he comes back to Philly.
Say about Jalen Hurts. He's a game changer. Good morning to all our listeners out there, and Glenn Erby behind the scenes in the chat room will pop him on the scene, waiting patiently in the virtual green room. Hey, there he is, Glenn. Good morning. How are you today, brother?
Good, Rick. How you doing this morning?
Oh, man, always a pleasure to have you here each and every Wednesday. Get your finger on the pulse on our Philadelphia Eagles. So let's start off and get your perspective on that big Monday Night Football win. I think everybody's still smiling from ear to ear after that performance. Not a lot to pick apart. What were your thoughts and impressions?
I think it went about the way we discussed it. Hurts was magnificent. He spread the ball around. He got Devontae Smith involved early. Jonathan Gannon responded. We talked about that in terms of his matchups, his rotations, his snap counts for guy. Darius Slay was outstanding. So it went about the way that we had a great game plan for Justin Jefferson on top Slay. So it was a great Monday night performance.
Yeah, and meanwhile, the Dallas Cowboys, the Cooper Rush-led Dallas Cowboys, they get a W. New York Giants get a W. And so now this Week 3 matchup with the Washington Commanders suddenly has some divisional implications. I know the Eagles swept the season series last year. I think, at this stage of the game, the Eagles should hope or expect to sweep the Commanders again this year. Now, they're down in D.C. The Eagles fans usually travel pretty well. What do you make going into this Commanders matchup on the road?
It's a good matchup on paper. It's a matchup that, the Eagles should dominate, but then you have the Carson Wentz effect. So I feel like, at some point he's going to unload. He's just going to have a great game on the Eagles. Now, you would hope that he gets it out of the system this week and it doesn't happen when he comes back to Philly. But I think the numbers and analytics, he's going to have a good game, one of them. So I think that's a big storyline to watch. I think, he has solid receivers. So, that's a storyline to watch as well. So it'll be an interesting week from a build-up perspective and things like that.
Yeah, I think the more they throw it, the more susceptible I feel an interception coming on. Darius Slay is going to be there lurking. And we talked about the cornerback wide receiver matchups and how Slay would most likely draw Jefferson. I think this week he'll draw McLaren. Avonte Maddox and Jahan Dotson's going to be a good one in the slot.
Certainly.
Curtis Samuel, though, I think James Bradbury is going to draw this assignment. And I don't know. You tell me. That could be a little bit difficult for the lankier Bradbury going up against the shiftier Samuel. That might be one of the mismatches that the Eagles have to account for. And our good friend Nikki Jabavala, who was on before you, also mentioned like Curtis Samuel. He could be a guy that goes into the backfield, maybe takes some running back snaps. How are the Eagles going to defend this offensive attack with Logan Thomas, oh, by the way, emerging as a playmaker and red zone threat as well?
Well, I think it's similar to how they handled Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen. So I think it'll be a situation where when Samuel is out wide, you could see Slay on him and you could see Bradbury or McLaurin because he's a bigger, more physical receiver. So you could also see Chauncey Gardner-Johnson matched up on one of those two as well. So I think it's just about matchups. I think it's just about how Jonathan Gannon plays it. I think he's comfortable. I think Monday night gave him a good indication of how all those defensive backs can be versatile, hybrid guys. So it's just about mixing and matching and getting the best matchup for your defense, not necessarily reacting to what Washington wants to do.
No, that's a good point. CJ Johnson could also draw some assignments there. We're talking to Glenn Erby, Eagles Newswire, USA Today here each and every Wednesday. Let's talk about the defensive line rotation because it looked like they got everybody involved. Nobody played more than 66, 67% of the snaps. I think Reddick and Cox had the most amongst the bunch. Do you like this game plan moving forward? Jordan Davis still just 21 reps, 22 last week. I don't know if we see his role increase. What do you make of that?
I think it depends on matchups. I think once you get a situation where they run into teams that like to run the ball more than they'll pass, then you'll see Jordan Davis's snaps increase. But I think right now Gannon has an idea what he wants to do with the rotation. I think it's about keeping Hargrave and Fletcher Cox fresh. Milton Williams has been playing well. So I think that's the reason why Davis is still stuck at that 20-21 range. I think, they're all Marlon Tuilotu is playing well. So I think it's a situation where you have good depth up front. And it's not necessarily a bad thing. I think as the season progresses, injuries, wear and tear, he could start to see more snaps. But I think right now, Gannon likes what he sees. And then when Davis is inserted into the lineup, he's impactful.
He is. And I still want to see him a little bit more in there, and I think we will as the season progresses. 14th overall selection, you'd like to see him play a little bit larger role, and we'll give it some time. We'll let that situation breathe. Now, his former collegiate teammate down there in Georgia, Nakobe Dean, not selected as high because of that injury, but talent-wise, he was talked about as a first-round guy. The linebackers, though, unlike the defensive line, the linebackers, Kaiser White, TJ Edwards, they've played the bulk of the reps. Is Nakobe Dean not playing just because Edwards is at such a high level, or does Dean need to progress a little bit more, or is it a combination of both? What are you hearing about that?
I think it's a combination of both, but I think TJ Edwards has played outstanding. I think he was one of the leading tacklers on Monday night. Kaiser White has played good. He's been good in space. So I think it's just about Nakobe Dean learning the NFL game. He didn't start as a freshman in Georgia, so it's all about progression. So I think, again, same with Davis, as we talk about as the year goes along, guys get hurt, guys get banged up, he'll play more. But I think for now, it's just about TJ Edwards. It's really one of the better players on defense, and there's no sense in taking him out of the lineup for a rookie who could get overwhelmed at times anyway.
No, I agree with that logic. Edwards has been solid, and you really don't know what you're getting with Dean at this point. So why put him in there at a critical stage of the game? I mentioned the snap count. Two safeties played 100%. Bradbury, I think, also played 100%. Darius Slay, who, oh, by the way, was just named NFC Defensive Player of the Week, as he should be.
Correct.
He only played 80% of the snaps. Now, I know he was a little banged up in that game. Is he good to go 100% for this matchup?
He's fine. I think it was just a situation where he was banged up early on in the game, and then towards the end of the game, they got the lead, and then you had situations where he made the big plays, and after each big play, he was a little gassed. So I think it was a situation where McPherson got a few more reps, and because Slay got the interceptions, he had a return on a couple of them. It was just a situation about getting him some rest, but he's good to go.
Okay. All right, let's switch things up. Let's go over to the offensive side, and the Eagles, I think they have the number one rushing attack in the entire National Football League. Again, the breakdown of the percentages, I think Miles Sanders was in there for, half of the snaps. The other half of the snaps were divvied up between Kenny Gainwell, Boston Scott. Hurts was in there, I think 11, 13 rush attempts. So it's almost like a four-headed monster that you've got to account for.
Correct.
This is quite the rushing attack. I'm happy with the way that they're utilizing this earth, wind, and fire combination. I think this is kind of the recipe for success throughout the season. Keep Miles Sanders healthy. Let's get him into the playoffs. And listen, he could be maybe more effective with lesser touches. Sometimes less is more, right?
Correct. I think we talked about it last week. You would like him again to take the ball, to take the reins, be a 1,200-yard back. But I think he can be that 1,200-yard back with this committee approach. You give Gainwell his 16 touches, you give Boston Scott his 12. Hurts is going to carry the ball about 12 times per game anyway. So I think it's a situation where, again, they'll run teams out of the building. You won't wear your running back down. He'll finally get his 1,000 yards. He'll definitely get a new contract if he does what he has to do. And I think everyone's happy. So I think from that standpoint, Shane Steichen, the offensive coordinator, has done an amazing job with his run-pass ratio, keeping everything fresh, innovative, and consistent. I think that's just the way to go.
You just made a really good point, Glenn, that I haven't talked about on my show much. We make so much about Jalen Hurts possibly getting a new deal, but Miles Sanders is another guy that's going to be up for a little payday. I wonder how the two are connected. in terms of what I don't know what the Eagles' cap flexibility will be next year, but should they extend to Jalen Hurts, say, this offseason, do you think there's enough in the kitty for them to also bring back Miles Sanders? And there's also I think there's a lot of pending free agents. Is it feasible, do you think, if you give Jalen the long-term money to also bring back Miles Sanders?
I think so. I think the idea is to give Jalen the long-term money, but in terms of actual football contracts, he'll still have a year on his deal. So that'll be a situation that we'll watch. That'll be a situation we can look at. Howie Roseman likes to get, long-term deals done early, but he doesn't necessarily have to get a deal done early with Hurts. In terms of Sanders, I don't think he's going to want to pay him more than $6 or $7 million a year. So that'll be a situation to watch in terms of if Miles will want to test free agency, if he'll feel like he can get a better deal on the open market, or if he just wants to come back, continue with the committee approach, stay fresh, and get his yardage while trying to compete for a Super Bowl. Yeah,
that's going to be a tough situation, I think, because, man, $6 to $8 million for a running back. You wonder, can Kenny Gainwell step up and take over that role, or do they move on and, save a couple money? I look at the Saquon Barkley deal and the Ezekiel Elliott deal, and I feel like big money running backs, especially multi-year deals, rarely do they pan out. I know there's a bunch of other examples, but yeah, that's going to be a situation worth monitoring. We're going to have to, kind of dig up who the agent is there for Miles Sanders and kind of break that down a little bit more. And I can't believe we went almost 10 minutes into the segment before I said Jalen Hurts, who was, the star of the show on Monday Night Football, big-time players making big-time plays in big-time moments, as Coach Nick Sirianni alluded to on Jalen Hurts. However, Glenn, looking around the media landscape, there's still doubters and people hating on Jalen Hurts' style of play. I mean, is it just to the point where no matter what this man does, there's going to be criticism? Because I don't know what else he can do to silence the critics. They say he doesn't have the accuracy. I saw improved accuracy, both short-term, intermediate, and on the deep ball especially. They say he can't pick up blitzes. I don't know. I see him reading the blitz, taking off and running when he needs to be. People might not like the style of play.
Correct.
All this man has done is played at a high level, even dating back to the end of the last season. We see the ball release is getting faster out of his hands. I mean, what more do people want from Jalen Hurts?
I think they just want him to be perfect. I think we talked about it in the prior shows in terms of the fan base, the expectation. So all he has to do is continue to win. I think there aren't a lot of there's only one Justin Herbert. There's only one Patrick Mahomes in this league. So in terms of how he throws the ball, how the passing game develops, that's a new point for him. It's about being accurate, making good decisions, being a dual threat, because we want him to be a dual threat. His legs get him out of. If you have a Michael Parsons and pass rushers like that in this league, you want your quarterback to be able to escape pressure. So for him, I think it's just about continuing to be accurate, continuing to make good decisions, spreading the ball around, being able to utilize the middle of the field, and everything else will work itself out.
Yeah, and I said this on one of the shows earlier in the week. The only person who's going to stop Jalen Hurts at this point is Jalen Hurts himself.
Correct.
If he takes too many hits or he does a Carson Wentz and dives head first, but I don't see that out of him. We've heard him talk about his baseball playing days, going back to the youth and learning how to slide at an early age, and Nick Saban kind of drilling that into him even at Alabama. But, man, I just go back to his progression. Like, he was so raw at Alabama, and then he goes to Oklahoma. You see the signs of progression where you can argue he didn't win the Heisman, but you can argue he ran that Oklahoma Lincoln Riley offense more efficiently than a Kyler Murray or even a Baker Mayfield did. Go check the numbers. So I don't know. I mean, this is a third-year quarterback who's progressed every year in college. He's progressed every year in the pros. Oh, by the way, he's only 24 years old, Glenn. I said on yesterday's show, right here in state, Pittsburgh Steelers got a rookie quarterback, 25 years old. He can't even see the field. What a luxury to have a guy 24 years old going into his third season, his second year as a starter.
For sure. And we talked about those intangibles. And then we talked about prior on the show, this is his first time, like literally since high school, since I think 11th grade, of having the same offensive coordinator, same play caller, same system. So imagine what he's going to do 8 games from now. Imagine what he's going to do next season. Like this, the first time in his career he's had any continuity from a coaching staff. So we talk about him improving and the things he needs to do on a year-to-year basis. But what about the coaches and the uprooting of coaches he's had over his career? So I think he's only going to get better. His throwing mechanics have improved. They'll continue to improve. He's good at sliding and getting out of bounds. Yeah, he's going to take shots, but I don't see him taking any more shots than Carson Wentz or any other quarterback that was here. So I think it's just about giving him the weapons. He's utilizing his weapons. Monday night was he did a great job. I think he spread the ball around to 6 or 7 different guys. So he's picking it up. He's getting there. I think this is like his 22nd start. I think Sunday will be his 22nd start as a pro. So the sky's the limit for him.
Pretty good, man. Pretty good. He sold me. I mean, I've seen what I needed to see. I've watched a lot of football in my lifetime, and I just don't understand some of these folks who are still on the fence in terms of whether or not this is a franchise quarterback. I can't imagine 3 years into the Nick Sirianni experiment that they want to blow this thing up, start all over with a rookie quarterback. We mentioned the upcoming free agents, not really much to choose from there. And look at San Francisco. They worked out 5 quarterbacks yesterday. They had to get rid of Nate Sudfeld when they brought back Jimmy G. They guaranteed him $2 million, then cut him. I'm sure they wish they had him back, but that's what happens. When you think the grass is greener on the other side. Go ask Kyle Shanahan down there in San Francisco, because Trey Lance, there's a lot of questions there. Now that Jimmy G's in there, I feel a lot better about the San Francisco situation, right?
You'd have to think about it. 2 years ago, when Howie did all that trading and moving back, there were questions about, well, why aren't you trying to move up? Why aren't you trying to address the quarterback position? So say he doesn't move back. Say, okay, he couldn't get Kyle Pitts, he couldn't get Jamar Chase, but say he was able to stay at 2 or 3. You're sitting here now talking about Zach Wilson, who has it. I mean, he's a solid quarterback, but he hasn't shown you that he can lead a team, and he hasn't even played enough. And you'd be sitting here talking about Trey Lance as well. So I think from a quarterback perspective, if it's not C.J. Stroud or Bryce Young, we're not talking about another quarterback in the 2023 draft, and he's not going to be better than Hurts. So if you're not getting one of those 2 players, what are we really talking about?
No, I agree with that. And then the other side of me says, like, as good as Stroud and Young look, there's still a transition. There's still a learning curve.
Correct.
And, we talked about this the other day too. Like, even when Wentz was still here and Hurts started those final 4 games of the season, he was kind of looking over his shoulder. It wasn't really his team yet. I mean, this whole team rallies around Jalen Hurts. Like, he is the ultimate leader. You mentioned intangibles. This guy has it all. He's the first one in, the last one out. People look up to him. They respect him. They lean on him. A veteran like A.J. Brown comes in and is like, yo, that's my quarterback. So, like, to me, it would be a big, big mistake to move on from a Jalen Hurts when he's shown you everything, guys. He's shown it right here towards the end of last season, first 2 games of this season, and we'll continue to break it down. And I'll continue to conduct the train. Glenn, we got plenty of room aboard the Jalen Hurts season train. So
I'm on the bandwagon. I'm here.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so let's talk about the weapons now because he distributed the ball very much like I think we wanted to see. I was happy Devonta Smith caught the first pass. We got that out of the way.
Right. Got that over with quickly.
Yeah, right. And so this is something, though, I'm looking on paper. We talked about the Eagles corners on the Washington receivers. I have my depth chart here in front of me. I have, Kendall Fuller on A.J. Brown looks like a mismatch. William Jackson on Devonta Smith looks like a mismatch. I know Cam Curl is coming back for Washington. Maybe he draws the assignment there on Dallas Goedert. Even St. Juice, who came out of Minnesota Gophers, him and Tariq Castro-Fields of Penn State, I guess, is their slot corner. We saw what Quez Watkins did this week. I mean, pick your poison. It looks like a mismatch at all 3 wide receiver positions here.
I think so. I agree. I think this week you'll probably Pascal will even get involved even more because of his size and his abilities in the red zone. So I think it's a situation where week one and similar to last week, it'll just be about Jalen taking what the defense gives him, spreading the ball around, definitely targeting AJ Brown, Dallas Goedert, utilizing game, efficient in the red zone and third downs. And I think it should be an easy victory.
Easy victory. Oh, we like that. Usually the in-division games are typically closer, but you look at what the Lions did to the Commanders versus how I think we all, probably myself included, overreacted about allowing 35 points to the Lions. And hey, this is a 3-win club. We barely eked out the victory. And then week 2 comes along and they take it to Washington pretty good. And we say, oh, wait, maybe
They're
Detroit's
not bad. Right. They're not bad at all. St. Brown, the Lions aren't bad at all. And that's where I get the idea of you throw in the Carson Wentz situation, you throw in these guys getting ready to get on the bus train, however they're going to DC and playing. But them, they're going to want to have Jalen Hurts back specifically because of who the opposing quarterback is. So that's why you could catch them maybe looking ahead next week when you start talking about Jacksonville and that situation. But I think in terms of them playing Wentz, having Hurts back, them trying to finally get this situation put behind, I think they'll be focused. I think they'll be a fresh group, and I think it'll just be about taking what the Commanders give them, pressuring Wentz. They know he'll give the ball up once or twice. That's a fact, and not allowing any big plays in the secondary.
Yeah, I mean, for the amount of times they picked off Kirk Cousins, I would expect to see similar kinds of results and winning the turnover battle, winning the time of possession. I think they dominated the time of possession. The balanced attack, I think they had 13 passing touchdowns and 10 rushing touchdowns. So I think we'll continue to see a lot of the same. I'm going to get a prediction from you before we go. But first, I mentioned this to Nikki Jabavala from the Washington Post because Brian Mitchell played for both the Eagles and who are now the Commanders, but Washington, Philadelphia. We don't really see the kick return extraordinaires in the modern day NFL because the rules have changed and there's not as many big returns like there once was. And I'm still shocked Devin Hester hasn't been put in. I don't know what that means to Brian Mitchell's Hall of Fame candidacy, but I made this point in the last segment. Like, you might not see an impact kick returner like that ever again with the way the game is played now. Where do you kind of stand on his Hall of Fame nomination?
I think he's worthy. I think you have a situation where, like you said, he returned kicks for both teams. He returned kicks for scores for both teams. A lot of those kickoff returns impacted games. So I think from a standpoint, the Hall of Fame is about how said players impacted the game. Like him and Devin Hester, they impacted the game. They broke records. They willed their franchise to playoffs. So I think it works. I think we'll get to a situation now sooner or later where there's not going to be any kick returns. I think we'll still potentially have punt returns, but I think we're soon get to the phase where they're just going to drop the ball on the 20 and go ahead with your business. So I think from that standpoint, Mitchell definitely deserves to be in, him and Hester.
Yeah, I think so too. And I'll throw Steve Tasker in the mix there as a special teams dynamo. I mean,
definitely. In terms of,
I mean, these guys get the
ball games.
Is Tasker in there? Did they put Tasker in? I don't know. The special teams are a weird deal when it comes to the Hall of Fame. I thought Hester was already in, and then Nikki told me no, he's not.
No, not yet.
That's a travesty.
I think he'll get in. I don't necessarily know if it'll be anytime soon, but I think in terms of those are the only stats or the only, the situations you can gauge him by. So I think he'll get in, but I think it'll be some time.
Yeah, and I mean, he wasn't as good as Deion Primetime Sanders, but I mean, Hester was another guy, played a little corner, played a little receiver, returned some kicks. I mean, he was a heck of a player. So I was just curious to get your thoughts on that. One last one, Dick Vermeil, he went in the Hall of Fame as a member of the Philadelphia Eagles. He received his ring at halftime of the Monday Night Football game. But to me, the interesting thing here is I was trying to go back and think I can't name a better offense than the Greatest Show on Turf when he was with the then St. Louis Rams, who are now the LA Rams. of course, Kurt Warner, Isaac Bruce, Torrey Holt, big game, Azahir Hakeem, Ricky Prohl. I mean, the list goes on and on. But he said, hey, you know what? Philadelphia is in my heart. They mean the world to me. And he goes in as a Philadelphia Eagle. That's a pretty cool deal, man.
I think so. I think it's where, he got his start. I think that's where he went to his first Super Bowl. I think it's where the first time he had to retire. So I think it's a lot with that. You have movies made off of his time with the Eagles. So, I think it's a big deal. He's a Philly guy. He's still in the area for the most part. So I think that was hurt.
Yeah, no, I like it. All right. We'll get you out of here, Glenn. We're talking to Glenn Erby, Eagles Newswire on USA Today. Before your prediction, what do you got cooking on the Eagles Newswire? What can fans find when they go log on? What do you got coming up?
A whole bunch of previewing the Commanders, Wentz, Darius Slay's big week, A.J. Brown, Jalen Hurts talking about his potential contract, all those different things. But just really getting ready for a huge week of Carson Wentz talk as the week builds up.
Yeah, and hopefully when you come back next week, the Eagles will be still soaring high, sky high, 3-0. We're predicting, or
that's the expectation. Correct.
Can we get a Glenn Erby score prediction before you go?
I expect a shootout. I think it'll be fireworks. I think Wentz will take his chances, and with the weapons he has, he'll get them. But I think in the end, it'll be a similar score. I think I see the Eagles winning 35-27.
Ooh, okay, high scoring affair.
High scoring affair.
All right. Hey, let the fireworks begin. We'll see how it plays out, and we'll come back next week and break it all down. Always a pleasure, Glenn.
Appreciate you having me on, Rick. Thanks, man.